Hello, everyone. Welcome back. The channel's called Paul is Dead and Other Hot Potatoes. And today I want to discuss how I think people have fallen in love with science. I had this realization while doing some yard work, physical activity outside, and I remembered that little phrase, love is blind. I did a little research here and there. It confirmed my suspicions. When a person falls in love, it works like a drug, like a catalyst on their entire life. Everything in the person's life becomes dependent on the feeling of love, and it just becomes a pattern of need and fulfillment. And so what happens is when we are in love, when people are in love with science, what they do is they let go of the flaws and the moral conflicts and the effects on their health and the sanity for the feelings that they get from being in love with science. And it's an everyday occurrence for most people, and that's why people are signing up for updates and staying on the tip of cutting edge technology with NASA. All of this there's a high from it, and it's the similar as to being in love. And so just like a drug, this love drug or the love of science, it clouds your vision, and then there's withdrawals when you don't get enough. When you think you don't know what's going on, when you don't have a grip on the situation, because this world is complicated. And I've been realizing that most every adult thinks that they have a pretty good bead on things. They think they understand the world to a great deal. They think they got it. Most people think that they have a solid feel on what's going on with the world, including everything, politics, religion, schools. Everybody has an opinion on everything. Everybody has their own mind made up for the most part. And it's really hard to change people's viewpoints or opinions very quickly. You can do it over time, but basically they do it. People have to change their own point of view. You can offer your point of view or your lens, and some people might be able to empathize and begin to see things your way, but for the most part, people see things the way they see things, and when they start to see things differently is when it changes for them, and not when you want them to see it. It's like those pictures with the hidden thing inside the picture and not everybody can see it, or those 3D pictures that were all dots and you focus your eyes weird and then you see the 3D picture. Not everybody could do that. I found some evidence that suggests people in fact have fallen in love with science, and that they have turned a blind eye to reason and logic in the process. This was going to be a segment entitled Words Have Meaning, but I'm going to slip it into this one because I have time. So science and physics do a great job of distorting the meanings of words. It appears that no care is taken to reduce confusion caused by changing words' meanings. And I have a perfect example. First is light. Light is a natural agent, and it makes things visible. Then they go on to classify an infrared light, which is invisible, and ultraviolet light, which also is invisible. But technically, light is invisible. It only makes things visible. But infrared light doesn't make things visible in our spectrum. And actually, ultraviolet light never makes anything visible. So Here they've added the word light to ultraviolet in the spectrum, and light has the definition of making things visible, where ultraviolet light does not make things visible in the same way that normal natural light does. So they've changed the meaning of light by adding it to ultraviolet. Another good example is a little more of a confusion on the part of people, but the word acceleration is commonly misused. Acceleration is commonly thought of as to be a speeding up. And that's not what it means in physics at all. At least not exclusively. And acceleration is also when you're going in a direction and you change directions, like, say, the path of the Earth. It's accelerating because it's going in a circle or its orbit, whatever, around the sun, allegedly. So when we say something is accelerating, it's commonly misused. And I believe that's due to them calling the accelerator pedal in a car the accelerator, because all the accelerator does is operate the speed. That means the steering wheel would also be an accelerator. Now that sounds silly, right? But it is. So the meanings of words are quite broad in science. I have a whole list somewhere of words used in science whose meanings have been obscured. But I think relating science to our lives, humans are in love with science. People have fallen in love with science, and love is blind. So when a human falls in love, they very often become blind to a number of things that might otherwise indicate cause for concern or caution. So these are red flags that aren't being seen. That's how science has gotten so far with all these contradictions, and no one has noticed it because everybody is in love with science. Other things to look into would be what's said about light, what's said about color. There's some quite large discrepancies in many topics I find in physics and science. The theory of general relativity and the theory of special relativity, those have issues. They seem to be built on fallacies. It's kind of hard to prove, but I can give some examples, maybe in another video. Anyways, I just wanted to touch bases and get this one out there and let people start thinking about whether or not it's healthy to be in love with science, because love is blind, and you're turning a blind eye to many conflicts and discrepancies that normal people would see. Mainstream people, they're just not seeing it because they love science. So, all right. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Okay, and that alone is telling you the Earth is flat. The Earth is flat. We had a confidence of 99.99999% accuracy. The Earth is flat.
Yeah.
The Earth is flat. The Earth is flat.